Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgi, your guide to all things geeky, and I have been saying all month long that one of my New Year's resolutions is to finally get a freaking schedule in place for this channel. Gotta finally organize things around here. Now there's gonna be random stuff going up whenever I feel like it, and today I'm proud to announce that from now on, Fridays will be review day. Every single week on Friday, you can find me coming in here and reviewing something from the world of geekery. Sometimes it might be something that I want to talk about. Sometimes it could be a requested review, something that you guys request down in the comments below. And what better time to start this than now, because yesterday, the brand new DC comic series, Legends of Tomorrow, finally premiered. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time, because it's from the same guy who created Flash and Arrow. And Flash is one of my favorite comic book things ever. Like, not just TV shows. It's already way up there with TV shows. If you don't count Netflix, it's easily hands down the best comic book TV show of all time. Sorry, Birds of Prey. I just did that to see who in the comments actually remembers Birds of Prey. Oh my god, that was so bad. So yeah, Flash is amazing. I love that series so much. And this promises to be even bigger and better and go to even further, crazier places. And it's also the very first time that we've seen a collection of different superheroes come together to form a team on a single TV show. Again, sorry Birds of Prey, you do not count. Ever. Ever. Oh my god, it was so bad. Now, in case you haven't heard of DC Legends of Tomorrow, it's meant to take a lot of these supporting heroes and even some of the villains from the quote-unquote Arrowverse, which is the universe that consists of the Arrow TV show, the Flash TV show, the Vixen animated series, maybe Supergirl? We still don't know on that one. Constantine, I guess. Anyway, whatever you want to call the collection of all those shows, it's taking the supporting characters from those series and they're forming a team with Rip Hunter, who is a time traveler, and he's taking them to different points in the past and the future to try and stop Vandal Savage, who is an immortal. So he's a guy who has basically learned every single fighting technique you can think of. He's come up with every single strategy for victory that can be imagined, and in the future, he's finally taken over. He's finally won. So it's up to Rip Hunter to gather this random collection of characters and go back and forth through time to stop him before he reaches the height of his power. Now, that is a really cool concept for a show. Let's get into a couple of the negatives. I know, I shouldn't be starting off with the negatives because so many people have been loving this show, but there were a couple of problems right off the bat with me that just kept me from getting fully invested in it. And one of my big problems is that I was super excited to hear about this show coming from the guy who created Flash, because one of the things I absolutely love about Flash is it's really treating that show seriously. I'm not saying that it's really dark and edgy, it is a super fun show, but it treats it like a superhero property. It does not treat it like a TV adaptation of a superhero property, if you know what I mean. They realize, yes, we're here to have fun, but we're going to treat this like it's a serious property. On this show, it seemed like everybody was muted down just a little bit. Like Brandon Routh on Arrow, and even on those episodes of Flash he's done, I love that dude. That dude has been great. I didn't know how I would feel about him as Ray Palmer. I love him as Ray Palmer. On this, he seemed really toned down. And granted, the script kind of called for that, because he's going through a little bit of a personal crisis. But I didn't have nearly as much fun with him as I have on those other shows. And with Professor Stein, I love Professor Stein. He was kind of like a mentor figure over on those other shows. Here, I enjoyed seeing the enthusiasm he had for time travel. That felt very in character for him. But everything else, it was just like, yeah, you don't really strike me as the guy that I know. The only two characters who I felt weren't toned down, but instead went the complete opposite direction, were Captain Cold and Heatwave. Those guys were already the most cartoonish part of Flash, but they still try to give them some dimensions, give them some characteristics and some personalities. Here, they are Looney Tunes cartoons in this. And I can't complain because I love them in this so much. There comes a point in this episode where they have to split up, and you've got Hawkman and Hawkgirl, you've got Rip Hunter, you've got the Atom, and you've got Professor Stein, and the Fuddy Duddy Squad basically just goes off in search of this guy in the 70s. And it basically just leaves White Canary, Captain Cold, and Heatwave. They just go off and get drunk at a bar, and I was like, okay, so half this is trying really hard to be a really serious time travel thing, and sadly, you don't quite have the budget for that. And this other half, it's just that old robot chicken sketch dicks with time machines. That's all it is. Because when I saw those three go out to a bar, I was like, this is all I want. I just want them going through time and getting drunk in every single decade and just starting bar fights. They become so cartoony in that, I just couldn't help but get excited about it. They're so cartoony. There's a moment in which Heatwave is about to go into this bar fight. He picks up a bar stool and it's like, okay, so he's going to smack it across someone. He just smacks it across a beam in the middle of the bar, shatters it. I was like, why the heck did you just smash it across a piece of furniture? Why didn't you actually use it on someone? And then he's got the 2 pieces of wood in his hand. It's like, oh, he's gonna beat people up with the wood. Next scene, he's just punching people with his fist. Like, you just broke a piece of furniture just to break a piece of furniture. Just to be a cartoon. And I loved it. I thought that was great. Now, I will say, though, that even though I felt everybody else in the show was a little bit muted down, that is not to say that they weren't each given at least a good reason for going on this journey. In fact, I thought that a lot of the reasons why these people had, and a lot of things that they go through as they time travel, actually kind of spoke to their characters and actually got kind of personal at times. And I thought it was pretty cool. Like, the Atom wants to go through time because there was a moment in which people thought he was dead, and he was like, yeah, and nobody cared. I have to do something important. Or you've got Hot Girl in there, and she still doesn't know how she feels about this whole past lives thing. And then when she goes back in time, I won't spoil what happens, but she encounters something that plays into that. I was like, oh, that's actually a really good moment for her character. In fact, I don't even recall seeing that happen in the comics before. I thought that was pretty darn cool. So yes, even though I felt that these characters weren't living up to their potential, I thought that they were at least giving them some stuff that defined each of their characters. However, you'll notice there's one character who I haven't mentioned yet, and that is because that character, they know nothing about how to write him. They don't know what to do with this character. And I want to see this character succeed because it's the other half of Firestorm, and I really like Firestorm. It's Jefferson Jackson who... That's one thing that I gotta get off my chest right now is that I absolutely love Jason Rush, who was the second Firestorm in the comics, and he popped up for a split second on Flash, and when he did, I was like, oh shoot, something's gonna happen to Ronnie, and then we're gonna get this guy. And then when something did happen to Ronnie, I was like, oh man, about to get Jason Rush in there. And then we get this other character, Jefferson Jackson, who was a supporting character to Ronnie Raymond back in the old Firestorm comics. I was like, okay, alright, that's a brand new guy. I don't know this guy, I will see what they do with him. And they haven't really done anything with that guy. And in this episode, when they're at least trying to do something with everybody in there, they give him nothing. Like, he doesn't want to go on this mission. He doesn't want to go on this mission at all. It's like, okay, fine, that's cool. That provides some, you know, some difficulties that they're going to have to deal with. That gives some interesting stuff that might come up. Yeah, the way that they convince him to get on the ship, wow, they just sidestep that whole thing completely. They just come up almost with a Deus Ex Machina to get him on there, but then when that happens, I was like, well, okay, well, that will cause a problem later on. That will definitely cause a problem later on. And then, mild spoiler alert, he eventually does decide that he wants to stay on this mission. I was like, alright, what's your reason? And his reason was, hey man, I used to play football, I like being part of a team, and now I'm part of a team again. I was like, that's it? That's your reason for being here? It's like, they really underwrite this character so badly. I mean, at the end of this thing, when they're going off into time, and it's like, alright, we're off on this big, great adventure, everybody gets some kind of a line that defines their personality, and his line basically boils down to, yeah. It's like, man, really? Again, I have no problem with this character. I have no problem with this actor. I have a problem with the fact that the writers have no idea what to give this guy. Writers, you have to work on him. Give him like 2 or 3 episodes that just spotlight him, sprinkled all throughout this, just to define his character. You have to help this guy out, because, I mean, yeah, again, I have nothing against this actor, but he's not being given anything. He is not being given a chance to prove why he was selected for this role. You've got to give him some stuff. Now, before I go any further, there is one more contrast between this and The Flash that I have to bring up, and that is special effects. And I mentioned I really love that The Flash does not treat its show like it is just some, CW adaptation of something. They are actually trying to go in there and make it as good as they possibly can. And I'm not saying that these people aren't trying either, but when you look at The Flash and how they use special effects, sure, they have to use them sparingly because they don't have that much cash, but they make them look really good when they do. There is a moment in here, like maybe 4 minutes in which Hawkman and Hawkgirl are charging at each other to fight. It is one of the goofiest things I've seen on television. I looked at that and went, I know you don't have that big of a budget. I know you can't make this look as good as you want it to. Someone in the editing room had to have come in and gone, we can't put that out. That's too clownish. And that's not to say that's all bad. I think the ship actually looks pretty darn good, especially the interior. Whoever designed that set did a great job because that is a set that I would be happy to spend the entire season on. However, then there's a moment in which they go outside into the 1970s, and I was like, dude, you just put a yellow filter over a set you have used multiple times on The Flash. I've seen that location before. You just put a yellow filter over it. You didn't put any, flowery decorations around. You had somebody walking around in bell bottoms. Alright, that's it? Really? Like, you need to give this show more money. Again, not really blaming the people working on the show here. They're doing the best with what they have. But the CW needs to realize that The Flash is one of their biggest successes out there. They now have the ability to spend a little bit more cash. They need to spend it on this show. They need to let them be able to show off these big, crazy worlds they're going to. I know someone out there is going to say, well, this was only the pilot. I'm sure it's going to get better. Yeah, typically they spend the most money on the pilot because they want to impress people. I didn't see that here. There was a moment in which the atom was shrunken down. I was like, that looks really darn cool. But that was about it. So yeah, when it comes to my TV ratings, I go with hit, wait and see, or miss. And in all honesty, I was going to give this one a right down the middle wait and see because, yeah, Heatwave and Captain Cold kind of saved this show for me. And even then, beyond those guys, yeah, I said everybody was kind of muted down, but it is really cool seeing these characters interact. It really is. However, towards the end of the show, like literally in the last maybe 10 minutes, maybe not even that, maybe like the last 5 minutes of this show, they reveal a couple of things. They reveal why Rip Hunter is traveling through time, and they reveal the exact reason why he picked this team, and when he did that, I went, oh, dip. This actually just took this whole show to another level, and you did it in like the span of 2 minutes. This is nuts to me how much better this show got in those last couple of minutes. Because yeah, like I said, everybody was muted down in this. Until he makes that revelation about why he selected them, and I was like, oh, now everybody has some personality. Now everybody is going through an emotional crisis. That was kind of cool. And yeah, Rip Hunter, you didn't really get squat from that guy all throughout this. You needed to have a little bit more personality, that character, but when he revealed the reason why he was going back in time, and what exactly he did to go back in time, I was like, oh, there's the story behind this guy. We're gonna learn more about him. So okay, in those last couple of minutes, this thing actually did get bumped up from a wait and see to a low hit. I will actually give it a low hit as my final grade on it. However, before I can let this episode end, there's one thing I gotta bring up that someone in the comments has to explain this to me. Because I do not remember them mentioning this at all throughout the episode. And listen, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen, because one thing that I have learned from doing these reviews in the past is that 9 out of 10 times whenever I come in here and go, oh, they never mentioned anything like this, someone in the comments goes, they said that like 10 minutes in. I think you might have not been paying attention. It happens. I'm a flawed human being. That's why I'm a critic. But yeah, there was one massive plot hole that I hadn't even thought of until like the very end of the episode. At the very end of the episode, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but if you want to now go ahead. But at the very end of the episode, we see Vandal Savage walking around in the 70s. And I don't know why, but up until that point, I had been assuming that they were going to have to try and stop Vandal Savage in the present day, because in the present day, if they stopped him, it wouldn't really affect any of these characters they've already gathered together. It wouldn't like change their timelines. But it suddenly dawned on me, oh wait, they're getting notes on where he was in the past. They're getting notes on like what was happening in the 70s. We see Vandal Savage planning something big in the 70s. They're going to try and stop him pretty much anywhere in time, including in the past. They can take him out at any time. Here's the thing. They don't know where he is. They're trying to track him down. And at the very end, it suddenly dawned on me, wait a minute, you already fought him on that Flash Arrow crossover. And you know from police reports, he arrived at the docks on this ship at this moment on this day. You already know that happened. Hawkman and Hawkgirl were there for that when it happened. Why don't you just go to the docks on that day and stop him there? Is there a reason they explain it? I just totally missed it? Did they explain at some point, oh, well, we can't kill him at times in which you guys might interact or something like that because I got news for you. Professor Stein was alive in the 70s. You guys have already existed within the same timeline. I don't understand it. As I said, if they explain it and I totally missed it, let me know in the comments down below, but not only could they stop him then, Hawkman and Hawkgirl have memories of their past lives, of them constantly being killed by Vandal Savage. They know when he came in and killed them, on what days, at what locations. Can't they just go back in time to those moments and stop him then? They know for a fact he was there. So yeah, even though I have that problem in there, it doesn't affect my final score because it doesn't change how much I enjoy this episode. I'm just saying, in a future episode, someone has to bring that up. Someone has to raise that question. I cannot wait for it to turn out that they already did explain this and they just explained it in like the 2 seconds that I got up to go and get myself a drink while watching this. I know that's going to be what happened. I do. Enjoy telling me that in the comments down below multiple times. So alright, that's it for today's review of DC Legends of Tomorrow. Come back next Friday for another review, and as I said, if there's anything that you guys want to see me review on this channel, I always take your suggestions very seriously. There are many shows and movies that I have actually reviewed on this channel based on your recommendations. In fact, there are several 500 episode long anime series out there that you guys keep asking me to do, and I am working on them, so I'm getting to those. But before I finish those up, if there's anything else that you want to see me review, leave that in the comments down below. Also, if you like this episode, make sure that you hit subscribe at the end of this, and you can always follow me on Twitter and Tumblr to send me even more recommendations. Thank you guys very much for watching, and come back next time.